The storm raged across the desolate surface of Kepler Form 42b, its crimson lightning splitting the purple sky. Maya Chen adjusted her environmental suit's power settings, conserving energy as she trudged through the alien landscape. The mining expedition had gone horribly wrong 3 days ago, when the Zephyrian raiders attacked their outpost. She was the only survivor, cut off from the evacuation ships that had fled without conducting a proper head count. Her boots crunched against the crystalline sand as she made her way toward what her scanner indicated might be shelter. The twin suns were setting and the temperature would drop to lethal levels within hours. Maya's breath fogged the inside of her helmet as she spotted something unusual ahead, a metallic glint partially buried beneath a collapsed rock formation. As she approached, her heart nearly stopped. It wasn't debris from her own expedition. The sleek biometallic hull belonged to a ship of unknown design, its surface shifting between silver and deep blue like living mercury. One section was torn open, revealing the interior lit by pulsing bioluminescent strips. Maya activated her suit's universal translator and cautiously stepped closer. A sound reached her ears, weak rhythmic breathing that definitely wasn't human. Inside the wreckage, she could see a figure slumped against what appeared to be a control console. The being was roughly humanoid but clearly alien, with elongated limbs and skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. The creature, she couldn't tell its gender, appeared to be unconscious and badly injured. A dark fluid that might have been blood pooled beneath its left shoulder, where something had pierced clean through. Its breathing was shallow and labored. Maya's training kicked in. Despite the obvious risks of approaching an unknown alien species, her medical background wouldn't let her simply walk away from a dying being. She'd spent 5 years as a field medic before joining the mining corps, and the Hippocratic Oath didn't specify species. She carefully climbed through the breach in the hull, her suit's lights illuminating the strange interior. The technology was unlike anything she'd seen. Organic curves blended seamlessly with crystalline structures, and the air itself seemed to hum with energy. Her environmental sensors registered the atmosphere as breathable, but recommended keeping her suit sealed. The alien stirred as her light fell across its face. Its eyes, 3 of them arranged in a triangular pattern, fluttered open, revealing irises that swirled like liquid gold. Those eyes widened in what appeared to be fear as they focused on Maya's human form. The being tried to speak, its voice producing melodic tones that her translator struggled to process. After several seconds, words began forming in her helmet's display. "Please, do not harm me. I am unarmed." Maya slowly raised her hands, palms forward, hoping the gesture would translate as peaceful. "I'm not going to hurt you," she said, speaking clearly for her translator. "I'm a medic." "You're injured." The alien's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a pattern that somehow conveyed surprise. "You help? But you are different species. Why?" Maya knelt beside the wounded being, pulling her medical kit from her suit's utility pouch. "Because you're hurt and I can help. That's reason enough." She began examining the wound, noting that despite the alien's unusual physiology, the injury followed patterns she recognized. The puncture had missed major vessels, assuming the species had a similar circulatory system, but infection was a serious risk. Her medical scanner adapted to the alien biology after a few moments, providing basic vital signs that confirmed the being was in critical but stable condition. "My name is Maya," she said as she worked, cleaning the wound with antiseptic. "What should I call you?" The alien's response came in musical tones. "Lyrian. I am Lyrian of the Veil Touched." A pause. "You are human, yes? I have heard stories of your kind. Warriors and destroyers." Maya couldn't help but smile grimly as she applied a synthetic bandage that would adapt to most biological systems. "Some of us are, but some of us are healers too." She helped Lyrian sit up more comfortably. "What happened to your ship?" "Raiders," Lyrian whispered, the word carrying obvious pain beyond the physical. "They hunt my people for our neural interfaces. We can interface directly with quantum systems, making us valuable slaves." 3 eyes closed in sequence again. "My family, my bondmates, they were taken." Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the approaching night. She'd heard rumors of alien slave traders operating in the outer systems, but seeing the results firsthand made it real. "I'm sorry. The raiders hit my outpost too. Zephyrians, I think." Lyrian's eyes snapped open. Purple ships? Energy weapons that phase shift? That's them. They work with others. A syndicate that spans multiple species. They took my people to their processing station in the Zirian Nebula. Lyrian tried to stand but swayed dangerously. Maya caught the alien's arm, surprised by how warm the skin felt through her gloves. Easy. You've lost a lot of blood, or whatever that blue stuff is. Ichor, Lyrian supplied. And thank you. This kindness, it is unexpected from a species we were taught to fear. Maya helped Lyrian back to a seated position. Taught by whom? The hegemony. They control much of this sector. They claim humans are aggressive primitives who consume resources and destroy everything they touch. Lyrian studied Maya's face through her helmet. But you risk yourself to help a stranger. This does not match their teachings. Maya began setting up a temporary shelter using her emergency supplies, creating a sealed environment where both species could survive the night. People believe what they're told, especially when it serves someone else's agenda. Who benefits from everyone thinking humans are monsters? Those who want the galaxy divided, Lyrian said softly. Those who profit from conflict and fear. As Maya worked, she found herself thinking about the bigger picture. One human helping one alien wouldn't change galactic politics, but it was a start. She'd always believed that understanding began with individuals choosing to see past their differences. Your ship's quantum drive, Maya said, as she finished setting up their shelter. Is it salvageable? Lyrian's expression, readable despite their alien features, turned hopeful. Perhaps, but it requires a specific harmonic frequency to restart. I am too weak to generate it myself. Maya looked at the biomechanical console, its surfaces pulsing with subdued light. What if I helped? Could you guide me? You would trust me to interface with your nervous system? Lyrian's three eyes widened in astonishment. The neural link required could damage your mind if I intended harm. Maya met those swirling golden gazes steadily. Could you repair your ship without my help? No. Then we trust each other or we both die here. Maya activated the shelter's atmospheric processor. Besides, something tells me that if you wanted to hurt me, you would have tried already. For the first time since she'd found the wounded alien, Lyrian's expression shifted into what might have been a smile. The neural interface process was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. Lyrian's elongated fingers rested gently against her temples while bioluminescent threads extended from their fingertips, penetrating her helmet's emergency access ports and making contact with her skin. The sensation was warm, almost electric, as alien thoughts brushed against the edges of her consciousness. Maya felt Lyrian's surprise ripple through the connection, not at her thoughts, but at the complexity of human neural patterns. Where the veil touched had smooth, flowing mental pathways optimized for quantum interface. Humans possessed chaotic networks that sparked with unpredictable creativity and stubborn determination. Your minds are so dense, Lyrian whispered, their voice carrying both awe and confusion through the link. How do you process so many parallel thought streams without losing coherence? Maya focused on the ship's quantum drive, letting Lyrian guide her understanding of its biomechanical systems. We call it multitasking. Sometimes it's useful. Sometimes it makes us crazy. She could feel the drive's damaged components through the connection, like sensing a broken bone through swollen flesh. Can you show me what needs to be repaired? The shared consciousness expanded to encompass the ship's systems. Maya gasped as she suddenly understood technology that shouldn't have made sense to her human brain. The quantum drive didn't just bend space-time. It resonated with the fundamental frequencies of reality itself, creating harmony between the ship and the universe that allowed for instantaneous travel. But the resonance chamber was cracked, its crystalline matrix disrupted by the Raider attack. Without the proper harmonic sequence, the drive couldn't achieve quantum lock. Maya could feel Lyrian's despair bleeding through their connection. The repair required precise tonal control that their injured state made impossible. Wait, Maya said aloud, her voice strange in the shared mental space. What if we don't try to match the original frequency? What if we create a new one? Lyrian's confusion rippled through the link. That is impossible. The harmonic must be exact or the quantum matrix will collapse. But you said human minds are chaotic, right? What if chaos is exactly what we need? Maya began to understand something that Lyrian's ordered thought patterns couldn't grasp. Your people think in straight lines, in perfect harmonies, but sometimes you need discord to create new music. She reached deeper into the ship's systems, feeling the quantum drive's broken rhythm. Instead of trying to restore the original pattern, Maya began improvising, weaving her chaotic human neural patterns into the alien technology like a jazz musician riffing on a classical piece. The result was catastrophic and perfect. The quantum drive screamed to life with a harmony that had never existed before, part veil-touched precision, part human unpredictability. The ship's hull groaned as reality bent around them, but instead of collapsing, the quantum matrix stabilized in an entirely new configuration. Lyrian jerked back, breaking the neural connection, their three eyes wide with shock. That should not have worked. The harmonic was completely wrong. Maya pulled off her helmet, breathing the ship's atmosphere for the first time. It tasted of ozone and something floral. Maybe wrong is just another word for different. The ship's systems came online around them, bioluminescent strips pulsing with renewed energy. Maya watched in fascination as the organic technology responded to what she'd done, adapting and incorporating the new quantum frequency into its core processes. "The drive is not just repaired," Lyrian said, studying the console readouts with growing amazement. "It is evolved. The efficiency is 30% higher than our standard configurations." They looked at Maya with something approaching reverence. "How did you know this would work?" Maya shrugged, trying to appear more confident than she felt. "I didn't. But sometimes you have to break the rules to find out they were never really rules at all." Lyrian began preparing the ship for departure, their movements still careful due to their injuries. The hegemony teaches that there is one correct way to achieve quantum resonance. They have built their entire civilization around this principle. Perfect order, perfect harmony, perfect control. "Sounds boring," Maya observed, watching the alien landscape outside shift as the ship's protective field engaged. "It is efficient, but perhaps—" Lyrian paused, three eyes blinking in that sequential pattern Maya was beginning to recognize as deep thought. Perhaps efficiency is not the only virtue worth pursuing. The ship lifted smoothly from the surface of Kepler 442b, its quantum drive humming with the new hybrid frequency. Maya felt a moment of vertigo as they broke atmosphere, the purple sky giving way to the star-filled void of space. "Where will you go now?" Maya asked. "Your people were taken to the Zerion Nebula, but that's controlled by the Raiders." Lyrian's expression hardened with determination. "Then I will go to the Zerion Nebula. My bondmates are there, along with others of my kind. I cannot leave them in slavery." Maya nodded approvingly. "Good, but you can't do it alone. You're still injured, and even with an upgraded drive, one ship against a Raider stronghold is suicide. What choice do I have? My people believe humans are monsters, and the hegemony will not risk conflict with the syndicates over a few missing veil-touched." Maya moved to the ship's communication console, her fingers dancing over controls that somehow made sense to her after the neural interface. "Then maybe it's time to show your people what humans are really like." She began broadcasting on multiple frequencies, sending out a coded distress signal that would be picked up by human ships throughout the sector. The message was simple: rescue mission, humanitarian aid, volunteers needed. Lyrian watched in confusion as Maya worked. "You are calling for help from your own kind? But what interest do humans have in freeing alien slaves?" Maya turned to face the alien, her expression serious. "Because it's the right thing to do. Because no one deserves to be enslaved regardless of species. And because if we don't stand together against the syndicates, they'll just keep picking us off one by one." Within hours, responses began flooding in. Independent traders, mining crews, even a few military vessels on deep space patrol, all willing to help mount a rescue operation. Maya felt a surge of pride in her species as the messages poured in, each one offering ships, weapons, supplies, or expertise. Lyrian stared at the communication display in growing amazement. "They do not know me. They have no obligation to my people. Why would they risk themselves?" "Because that's what humans do," Maya replied. "We're stubborn, chaotic, and sometimes incredibly stupid. But when someone needs help, we show up. It's probably the one thing the hegemony got right about us: we are aggressive. We're just aggressive about protecting people instead of conquering them." The ship's sensors detected incoming vessels, a ragtag fleet of human ships converging on their position. Maya smiled as she recognized the signals from mining haulers, merchant vessels, and even a few ships that definitely weren't supposed to be in this sector. The syndicates think the galaxy's too big and too divided to mount effective resistance, Maya continued, watching their impromptu fleet assemble. They count on different species being too suspicious of each other to cooperate. But what happens when humans start building bridges instead of walls? Lyrian's three eyes focused on the growing fleet with something approaching awe. Revolution happens. Maya began coordinating with the incoming ships, her hybrid understanding of both human and veil-touch technology, allowing her to serve as translator between the two very different approaches to space travel. The humans brought firepower and adaptability. The veil-touch ship provided stealth and precision. There's something else you should know about humans, Maya said as she plotted their course to the Xerion Nebula. We really don't like bullies. And these syndicates? They've just made the biggest mistake of their existence. Lyrian settled into the pilot's position, their injury still paining them, but their spirit clearly renewed. What mistake is that? Maya's smile was predatory. They hurt someone under human protection. That makes this personal. The Xerion Nebula burned like a cosmic wound against the darkness of space, its gases glowing red and purple from the radiation of the dying star at its center. Maya stood beside Lyrian on the ship's bridge, watching their improvised fleet take formation as they approached the nebula's edge. 15 human vessels of various classes had answered the call, from heavily armed cargo haulers to a sleek courier ship that definitely belonged to someone with questionable legal status. The processing station is hidden deep in the nebula's core, Lyrian explained, their three eyes reflecting the crimson light streaming through the viewports. The radiation interferes with most sensors and communication systems. The syndicates chose this location specifically because it makes rescue operations nearly impossible. Maya studied the tactical display that merged human and veil-touched sensor data. The nebula was a maze of gas clouds, radiation storms, and gravitational anomalies that would challenge even experienced pilots. Nearly impossible isn't the same as impossible. What's the station's defensive setup? 12 raider vessels on constant patrol, plus automated defense platforms throughout the nebula. The station itself is heavily shielded and armed with particle beam weapons. Lyrian's voice carried the weight of despair. Even with your fleet, we are severely outgunned. Captain Sarah Morrison's voice crackled over the communication system from her mining hauler, the Iron Maiden. Maya, we've got incoming signals from the nebula perimeter. 3 patrol ships are moving to intercept us. Maya activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Maya Chen aboard the veil-touched vessel. Remember, we're not here to start a war, we're here to end one. Let's show these raiders what happens when they mess with innocent people. The first engagement began at the nebula's outer edge, where the raider patrol tried to challenge their approach. The Zephyrian ships were fast and well-armed, their energy weapons capable of phasing through standard shields. But the human captains had spent lifetimes adapting to impossible odds and hostile environments. Captain Liu's salvage ship, the Reclaimer, used its industrial-grade tractor beams to grab chunks of nebula debris and hurl them at the raiders, while Morrison's heavily modified hauler provided covering fire with mining lasers repurposed for combat. The raiders found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow conventional tactics. Their shield harmonics are adapting to our weapons, Lyrian observed, monitoring the battle through their enhanced sensors. This is why the syndicates are so successful. Their technology learns and evolves during combat. Maya watched the tactical display as one of the raider ships began to overwhelm the Reclaimer with concentrated fire. Then maybe it's time they learned something new. She opened a channel to Captain Rodriguez aboard the fast courier ship Night Runner. Diego, I need you to link your navigation computer to our quantum drive. Can you trust me with something completely insane? Rodriguez's voice carried the easy confidence of someone who'd probably never met a risk he didn't like. Darling, insane is my middle name. What do you need? Link established, Lyrian reported, their fingers dancing over the biomechanical controls. But I do not understand what you intend to accomplish. Maya began inputting commands that merged human spatial navigation with veil-touched quantum resonance technology. The raiders' ships adapt to our weapons, right? But what if we don't fight them directly? What if we change the battlefield itself? She activated the quantum drive, but instead of using it for travel, Maya began broadcasting the hybrid harmonic frequency throughout the nebula. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The gas clouds began to resonate with the quantum pulse, creating interference patterns that disrupted the raiders' sensor systems and shield harmonics. The Zephyrian ship suddenly found themselves flying blind. through a nebula that had become actively hostile to their technology. Their adaptive systems couldn't cope with an environment that was constantly shifting its fundamental properties. Impossible, Lyrian breathed, watching their sensors track the raiders' confusion. You have turned the nebula itself into a weapon. Captain Morrison's delighted laughter echoed through the communications. Would you look at that? Their fancy shields are flickering like candles in a hurricane. All ships, press the attack! The human fleet swept through the disoriented raiders like wolves among sheep. The Zephyrian vessels, stripped of their technological advantages, proved no match for human ingenuity and firepower. Within minutes, 2 of the patrol ships had surrendered while the third fled deeper into the nebula. This is only the beginning, Lyrian warned as they penetrated further into the swirling gases. The processing station will have detected our approach. They will be prepared. Maya nodded, studying the updated tactical information flowing from their enhanced sensors. Then we better be prepared too. Captain Morrison, deploy your mining drones. Captain Liu, start collecting every piece of metallic debris you can find. Diego, I need you to make a supply run. What kind of supplies? Rodriguez asked. The explosive kind. As the fleet moved deeper into the nebula, Maya began coordinating a plan that would have been impossible without the hybrid technology linking human and veil-touched capabilities. The mining drones, guided by quantum-enhanced navigation, began placing shaped charges throughout the nebula's structure, while Liu's tractor beams arranged debris into strategic positions. You are turning the entire nebula into a trap, Lyrian realized, their tone mixing admiration with concern. But the processing station contains hundreds of captives from dozens of species. If we destabilize the nebula too severely, we save them, Maya finished firmly. All of them. That's what humans do. We don't leave people behind. The processing station loomed ahead through the swirling gases, a massive structure that looked like a twisted fusion of industrial machinery and organic growth. Dozens of smaller vessels were docked to its various ports while energy readings indicated massive power consumption from within its hulls. Life. Signs are off the charts, reported Captain Chen from the medical frigate Mercy. There are definitely people in there, lots of them, but the radiation is making it hard to get precise numbers. Maya felt Lyrian's tension through their continued neural link. The alien was broadcasting subtle quantum pulses, trying to detect the specific resonance patterns of their missing bondmates among the chaos of the station's emissions. They are there, Lyrian whispered, 3 eyes closing in relief. Weak but alive. They are being held in the station's lower levels along with many others. Then let's go get them, Maya declared. All ships prepare for final approach. Remember, this isn't about destroying the station. It's about saving lives. Make every shot count. The processing station's defenses activated as they approached. Particle beam weapons and missile platforms that had been invisible until triggered. But the human fleet had learned from their earlier encounter. Instead of meeting force with force, they began implementing Maya's chaotic strategy. The mining drones detonated in sequence, creating a cascade of explosions that destabilized the nebula's gas clouds. The resulting chaos interfered with the station's targeting systems, while Liu's precisely positioned debris created cover and confusion. Their weapons can't get a lock on us, Morrison reported with satisfaction. It's like fighting in a 3-dimensional thunderstorm. Maya felt a moment of fierce pride in her species as she watched the human captains adapt and improvise in real time. They turned mining equipment into weapons, cargo holds into rescue vehicles, and their own stubborn refusal to accept defeat into a force that could reshape reality itself. The docking bays are heavily defended, Lyrian observed, monitoring the station's defensive grid. We will need to create a diversion to allow boarding parties to reach the captives. Maya smiled grimly. Leave that to us. Captain Rodriguez, how do you feel about making a very loud entrance? Music to my ears, beautiful. Just point me in the right direction. The Night Runner, loaded with every explosive device the fleet could spare, accelerated toward the station's main power core, while the other ships maintained covering fire. Maya watched Rodriguez's ship dance through the defensive grid like a leaf in a hurricane, too small and too fast for the heavy weapons to track effectively. The explosion, when it came, lit up the entire nebula like a newborn star. The processing station shuddered as secondary explosions cascaded through its superstructure. Emergency lighting flickered throughout the facility, while automated systems struggled to contain the damage from Rodriguez's spectacular sabotage run. Maya watched through the ship's sensors as the Night Runner emerged from the fireball, scarred but intact, its pilot whooping with adrenaline-fueled joy. "Power core is at 60% and dropping," Captain Liu reported from the reclaimer. "Defensive systems are cycling offline across 3 sectors. If we're going in, now's the time." Maya turned to Lyrian, who was preparing for the boarding action despite their still healing injuries. "You don't have to come with us. We can find your people and bring them out." Lyrian's 3 eyes met hers with unwavering determination. "They are my bondmates, my family. I will not abandon them to strangers, even kind strangers." They paused, studying Maya's face. "Besides, you will need someone who understands the station's biomechanical systems. The syndicates build their facilities using stolen veil-touched technology." The boarding party consisted of 12 humans and 1 alien, equipped with a mixture of mining tools, medical supplies, and weapons that had seen better days. Maya carried her medic kit alongside a plasma cutter borrowed from Morrison's ship, while Lyrian wore a neural interface crown that would let them commune directly with the station's organic components. They breached through a maintenance airlock in the station's lower levels, where the artificial gravity was sporadic and the air tasted of recycled fear. The corridors were a nightmare fusion of industrial utility and biological growth. Metal walls threaded with pulsing veins that carried data instead of blood, while bioluminescent nodes provided sickly illumination. "This place is alive," whispered Corporal Hayes, a former military engineer who'd joined Morrison's crew after the wars. "It's actually alive." Lyrian's fingers traced the organic conduits running along the walls. "The syndicates corrupt everything they touch. They take our biotechnology and twist it into something obscene." Their voice carried deep revulsion. "These veins carry more than data. They transmit pain, fear, despair. The station feeds on the suffering of its captives." Maya felt her jaw clench with anger. The more she learned about the syndicates, the more she understood why the galaxy needed someone to stand against them. "Then let's give it some indigestion. Can you interface with the system and find the prisoner locations?" "I can try, but the corruption may resist my influence." Lyrian placed their palms against a major junction node, their skin beginning to glow as they established contact. Almost immediately, they jerked back with a cry of pain. "It burns. The biomatrix has been programmed to reject veil-touched neural patterns." "What about human patterns?" Maya asked, moving beside them. "You said our minds are chaotic. Maybe chaos is exactly what this system can't handle." Before Lyrian could protest, Maya placed her hands on the biomechanical interface. The sensation was like grabbing a live electrical wire crossed with ice-cold malice. The station's corrupted consciousness tried to overwhelm her mind with images of suffering and despair, showing her the hundreds of captives trapped within its bowels. But Maya had spent years as a combat medic, and she'd seen horrors that would break most people. Instead of being crushed by the station's psychic assault, she pushed back with human stubbornness and righteous fury. Her chaotic thought patterns began spreading through the biomatrix like a virus, disrupting the carefully programmed cruelty. "Level 7, Section C through K," she gasped, pulling back from the interface. "That's where they're keeping the primary captives." "But Maya," she looked at her companions with grim determination. "There are children down there, younglings from at least 6 different species." The boarding party moved through the station's corridors with lethal efficiency. The humans had spent their lives working in dangerous environments, and they adapted quickly to the station's alien architecture. When they encountered syndicate guards, a mixture of Zephyrian raiders and other species, the confrontations were brief and decisive. "Freeze!" Maya shouted at a group of hegemony enforcers guarding a checkpoint. When they raised their weapons instead, Captain Morrison's mining laser carved through their cover like it was made of paper. "I really hate bullies," Morrison muttered, stepping over the smoking remains of their barricade. They found the first group of prisoners in what had once been a cargo bay, now converted into a holding facility with energy barriers and biomechanical restraints. Maya's heart broke as she saw the condition of the captives, dozens of beings from species she recognized and others she'd never seen before, all bearing the marks of systematic abuse and neural extraction procedures. Lyrian rushed to a cluster of their own people, 3 veil-touched who were barely conscious but still alive. The reunion was wordless but profound, a communion of relief and love that needed no translation. Maya watched the alien family embrace and felt a fierce satisfaction that they'd made this moment possible. Medical assessment? She called to Captain Chen, who was examining the various captives with portable scanners. Malnutrition, neural trauma, and systematic psychological conditioning. Chen reported grimly. They've been here for months, maybe longer. The syndicate was slowly breaking them down for processing. Maya felt her anger crystallize into cold determination. Then let's make sure they never get the chance to do this again. The rescue operation expanded as they moved through the station. In section after section, they found more captives. Miners like herself, traders, colonists, even a few military personnel who'd been captured during raids. The human boarding party worked tirelessly to free them all, using their mining equipment to cut through restraints and their medical supplies to stabilize the worst cases, but it was what they found in the station's central processing chamber that truly revealed the scope of the syndicate's evil. Hundreds of neural extraction devices lined the walls, each one connected to biomechanical processors that distilled the thoughts, memories, and skills of captives into marketable commodities. They're not just enslaving people, Maya realized, studying the horrific machinery. They're stealing their minds, their knowledge, their very identities, then selling them to the highest bidder. Lyrian's three eyes burned with fury as they examined their people's neural interfaces, which had been partially extracted for processing. This is why the hegemony wants my people's quantum interface abilities. Not for partnership or trade, but for theft. Captain Hayes was studying the central control system with professional interest. This whole setup is one big neural network. If we could overload it somehow, shut down the entire operation. Maya looked at Lyrian with sudden understanding. The quantum drive modifications. If we could broadcast the hybrid frequency directly into the station's biomatrix, it would cause a cascade failure throughout their entire network, Lyrian finished, their expression shifting to something approaching a predatory smile. Not just this station, but every facility connected to it across the galaxy. How many people would that free? Maya asked. Lyrian's fingers danced over a biomechanical console, their enhanced senses reading data streams that flowed like living rivers. Thousands. Tens of thousands. The syndicates have built their entire operation around centralized neural processing. Maya activated her communicator. All ships, this is Maya. We're about to light the biggest firework in galactic history. Be ready to receive a lot of very grateful refugees. She and Lyrian worked together, merging human intuition with veil-touched precision to create a quantum pulse that would resonate throughout the syndicate network. As they prepared to upload the virus-like frequency, Maya felt a moment of profound connection with her alien companion. Ready? She asked. Lyrian's three eyes met hers with complete trust. For my people, for all the captives, for a galaxy free from this evil. Yes. They activated the pulse simultaneously, sending their hybrid quantum signature racing through the station's biomatrix like wildfire through dry grass. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Every neural extraction device throughout. The facility began overloading as the chaotic human patterns merged with veil-touched quantum harmonics to create something entirely new. The station screamed. The processing station's death throes echoed through the Zirian Nebula as its biomechanical systems collapsed in cascading failure. Maya watched through the ship's sensors as similar signals erupted from processing facilities across 17 different star systems. The syndicate network crumbling like a house of cards as her quantum virus spread through their interconnected infrastructure. Confirmed. Shutdowns in the Kepler arm, the vegan territories, and the outer colonies. Captain Morrison reported from the Iron Maiden. We're getting distress beacons from freed captives across 3 sectors. This is bigger than we thought. Maya helped Lyrian into the pilot's seat as they prepared to evacuate the collapsing station. The veil-touched was exhausted from the neural interface work, but their 3 eyes shone with fierce satisfaction. Around them, the rescued captives filled every available space on their ship and the human vessels. Representing dozens of species and countless stories of suffering finally ended. The hegemony will not be able to ignore this, Lyrian said weakly. Too many of their client species have been freed. They will be forced to acknowledge what has happened here. Good, Maya replied, monitoring the evacuation as the last boarding parties returned from the station. It's time the galaxy knew the truth about what's been happening out here. The refugee convoy stretched across space like a constellation of hope. 347 beings from 22 different species, all freed from syndicate processing facilities by the quantum cascade. Maya moved between the ships, coordinating medical care and helping the former captives adjust to their sudden freedom. One of the most remarkable discoveries was a young crystalline named Zeth, whose silicon-based physiology had made them immune to neural extraction. They had spent months memorizing the locations of other syndicate facilities, creating a mental map of the entire slave trade network. The processing stations were just the beginning, Zeth explained through their harmonic translator, their crystalline form refracting the ship's lights into rainbow patterns. There are breeding facilities, training camps, even research stations where they experiment on captive beings to develop new extraction techniques. Maya felt her blood run cold. How many facilities total? 47 confirmed locations across the galaxy, but the cascade effect should have reached most of them by now. Zeth's crystal facets shifted to display satisfaction. Your quantum virus was more effective than you realized. It didn't just shut down the extraction equipment, it corrupted their entire database network. Captain Chen emerged from the medical bay, her expression grim but determined. We've got refugees who haven't seen their homeworlds in years. Some don't even remember where they came from originally. The psychological conditioning was extensive. Then we helped them remember, Maya said firmly. We helped them heal and we helped them find their way home. But as the convoy approached the edge of hegemony space, their sensors detected an incoming fleet. 12 massive warships bearing the geometric designs of the hegemony navy, their weapons powered and shields raised. Maya's heart sank as she realized they weren't coming to thank them. This is Admiral Kethvar of the Hegemony Third Fleet. The transmission crackled with authority and barely controlled anger. Human vessels, you are in violation of interstellar law. Surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Maya exchanged glances with Lyrian, who had regained enough strength to monitor their communications. They're not here to rescue anyone, Lyrian said quietly. They're here to contain the situation. Captain Morrison's voice cut through the tension. Maya, we've got 14 ships against their 12, but theirs are military grade. What are your orders? Maya felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Hundreds of freed captives were counting on her decisions, and the human captains were looking to her for leadership in a situation that could spark an interstellar war. Open a channel to Admiral Kethvar, she said, moving to the communication console. Let me talk to them. The Admiral's image appeared on the screen, a imposing hegemony official with the typical elongated skull and silver skin of their species. Their expression was cold and calculating, the look of someone who valued order above all else. I am Maya Chen, representing the humanitarian fleet, she began. We've rescued hundreds of beings who were being held illegally by criminal syndicates. These people need medical attention and safe passage to their homeworlds. You have interfered with ongoing hegemony operations, Admiral Kethvar replied curtly. The syndicate facilities were under investigation. Your unauthorized action has compromised years of intelligence gathering. Maya felt anger flare in her chest. Investigation? People were being tortured and murdered while you gathered intelligence. How many lives were you willing to sacrifice for your data? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, the Admiral stated with bureaucratic certainty. Your emotional response is exactly why humans are unsuited for galactic affairs. You act without considering the larger implications. The larger implications? Maya stepped closer to the screen, her voice rising. The larger implication is that every species in the galaxy now knows that the hegemony was willing to let the syndicates operate as long as it served their political purposes. How's that going to play with your client worlds? Admiral Kethvar's expression tightened. You will transfer the rescued individuals to our custody for proper processing and debriefing. Any hegemony citizens among them will be returned to their appropriate sectors. No. Maya's response was flat and final. These people have suffered enough. They're not going to be processed by anyone else. Then you force us to take more direct action. The Admiral's image flickered as weapon systems powered up across the hegemony fleet. You have 10 minutes to comply before we open fire. The communication cut out, leaving the human convoy facing down a superior military force. Maya could feel the tension rippling through the fleet as captains checked their weapons and prepared for what seemed like a hopeless fight. Maya, Lyrian said softly, their three eyes reflecting deep thought. There is something you should know about the quantum cascade. When we merged our technologies, we created more than just a virus. We created a new form of communication. Maya turned to face them, sensing something important. What do you mean? The quantum pulse didn't just shut down the syndicate network. It connected every freed captive to a shared quantum field. They can all sense each other now, communicate across vast distances. Lyrian's expression shifted to something approaching wonder. You didn't just free them from physical bondage. You gave them a voice that spans the galaxy. Maya's eyes widened as understanding dawned. They can tell their own stories. Every species, every world, every government that wants to know what really happened in those facilities. More than that, Lyrian continued. The quantum field is expanding. Every person who was touched by the cascade becomes a node in the network. Soon, millions of beings across the galaxy will be connected by your chaotic human patterns and our quantum harmonics. The communication system crackled to life, but instead of Admiral Kethvar's voice, they heard something unprecedented. A chorus of voices speaking in dozens of languages, all connected by the quantum field. Former captives were broadcasting their testimonies across the galaxy, telling their stories to anyone who would listen. Maya smiled grimly as she realized what Lyrian meant. The hegemony can't suppress this. They can't control information that flows through quantum space. Admiral Kethvar's superiors are probably receiving thousands of first-hand accounts right now, Lyrian agreed. Stories from their own citizens who were abandoned to the syndicates. The tactical display showed movement in the hegemony fleet as ships began receiving priority communications from their home worlds. Maya watched Admiral Kethvar's flagship waver in its attack formation as conflicting orders flooded their command structure. All human vessels, Maya broadcast to her fleet. Stand ready, but do not fire unless fired upon. I think we're about to see democracy in action. The standoff lasted for 3 hours as the quantum communication network spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Maya watched through their sensors as more ships arrived. Not hegemony reinforcements, but vessels from dozens of different worlds whose citizens had heard the testimonies of the freed captives. A Centaurian medical ship emerged from quantum space, followed by an Andromedan diplomatic vessel, then an entire squadron of ships bearing the markings of the Outer Colony Alliance. Each arrival brought more voices to the growing chorus demanding justice and accountability. Admiral Kethvar is receiving new orders every few minutes, Lyrian observed, monitoring the hegemony fleet's communications through their quantum-enhanced senses. Their government is in chaos. 3 client worlds have already recalled their ambassadors, and the Vegan Assembly is threatening to withdraw from the hegemony entirely. Maya felt a grim satisfaction as she watched the Admiral's flagship drift uncertainly in space. What happens when people stop being afraid to speak truth to power? The answer came in the form of an unexpected transmission from the hegemony homeworld itself. The image that appeared on their screen wasn't Admiral Kethvar, but an elderly hegemony official whose ceremonial robes marked them as a member of the ruling council. I am Counselor Thane Rex, speaking for the emergency session of the Hegemony High Council, the figure announced with obvious strain. We have been made aware of the situation in the Xerion Nebula and the broader implications of recent events. Maya stepped forward, acutely aware that she was about to represent humanity in what might be the most important diplomatic moment in galactic history. Counselor, we stand ready to discuss the safe return of all freed captives to their homeworlds. That is acceptable, Thane Rex replied, though their tone suggested the admission cost them considerable effort. However, we must address the more significant issue of your quantum communication network. The technology you have created poses a serious threat to galactic stability. You mean it poses a threat to your ability to control information? Maya countered. These people have the right to tell their stories. Stories that could destabilize governments across 17 sectors, the counselor protested. The quantum field you created allows unfiltered communication between species that have been carefully separated for centuries. Do you understand what chaos this could unleash? Maya exchanged glances with Lyrian, who nodded encouragingly. With respect, counselor, we've seen what your version of order looks like. Slave markets, neural extraction, entire species ground down for profit, while you looked the other way because it served your political agenda. Captain Morrison's voice cut into the channel from the Iron Maiden. Maya, we're getting reports from the outer systems. The quantum network is spreading faster than we thought. People are using it to coordinate relief efforts, share medical knowledge, even arrange cultural exchanges. It's not chaos, it's cooperation. Counselor Thane Rex's expression darkened. Unregulated cooperation between species inevitably leads to conflict. The hegemony exists to prevent the wars that nearly destroyed the galaxy 3 centuries ago. Maybe, Maya acknowledged. But preventing war by suppressing freedom isn't peace, it's just delayed violence. You can't build lasting stability on a foundation of fear and ignorance. The quantum network hummed with activity around them, as former captives continued broadcasting their experiences. But Maya noticed something else happening. The freed beings were also sharing positive memories, stories of kindness and cooperation that transcended species boundaries. The network wasn't just spreading trauma, it was spreading hope. A new voice joined the conversation as Captain Chen linked in from the medical frigate. "Counselor, I'm treating refugees from 47 different worlds right now. You want to know what I'm seeing? Species that supposedly hate each other working together to care for the wounded. A crystalline engineer helping repair a vegan trader's damaged neural implants. Humans and hegemony citizens sharing medical supplies without a second thought. These are exceptional circumstances," Thane Rex argued weakly. "No," Maya replied firmly. "These are normal circumstances when people aren't being told they have to fear each other. The quantum network isn't creating cooperation. It's revealing the cooperation that was always there, buried under layers of propaganda and artificial barriers. The tactical display showed more arrivals as word of the confrontation spread. A massive Andromedan colony ship appeared, its hull scarred from decades of hard use but its weapon systems powered down in a gesture of peaceful intent. Behind it came a convoy of independent traders, their diverse fleet representing the kind of grassroots alliance that the hegemony's rigid hierarchy couldn't understand. The situation has evolved beyond our ability to contain," Counselor Thane Rex admitted finally. "The quantum network now connects approximately 12 million beings across the galaxy. Attempting to suppress it would require military action against our own citizens." Maya felt a surge of triumph, but she kept her expression neutral. "So what are you proposing?" "A new framework for interstellar relations, one that acknowledges the reality of quantum communication while maintaining necessary safeguards against chaos." The counselor paused, clearly struggling with concepts that challenged their worldview. "The Hegemony Council is prepared to recognize the quantum network as a legitimate form of interspecies communication, subject to appropriate oversight." "Whose oversight?" Lyrian interjected, their 3 eyes narrowing with suspicion. "A joint council representing all connected species," Thane Rex replied reluctantly, "including humanity." Maya felt the weight of history settling around her. They weren't just negotiating the release of captives anymore. They were laying the groundwork for a new galactic order. What about the syndicates? What about the people responsible for the slave trade? Full prosecution under interstellar law. The quantum network has provided more evidence of their crimes than we gathered in decades of investigation. The counselor's expression turned grim. "Admiral Kethvar has been ordered to work with your fleet to hunt down the remaining syndicate operations." Captain Morrison's laughter echoed through the communications. "Well, would you look at that? From criminals to law enforcement in one conversation. I like the sound of that." Maya looked around at her impromptu fleet, seeing the mixture of hope and determination on every face displayed on her screens. "There's one more condition. The quantum network stays free and open. No censorship, no restrictions on who can access it. People have the right to communicate across species boundaries without government interference." "That level of freedom could be dangerous," Thane Rex warned. "Freedom is always dangerous," Maya replied. "That's what makes it valuable. Besides, you've seen what happens when governments decide they know better than their citizens. The syndicates operated for decades because people in power thought they could manage the truth." The counselor was quiet for a long moment, clearly wrestling with the implications. Finally, they nodded slowly. "The Hegemony Council accepts these terms. We will work with the Joint Council to establish protocols for the quantum communication network and coordinate the prosecution of syndicate criminals." As the formal negotiations continued, Maya found herself thinking about the chain of events that had brought them to this moment. It had started with one human helping one injured alien, driven by nothing more complex than the belief that suffering should be prevented when possible. "You realize what you have accomplished," Lyrian said quietly, moving to stand beside her as diplomats and officials worked out the details of their agreement. You have changed the fundamental structure of galactic civilization. Maya shook her head. We changed it. Humans didn't do this alone. We just provided the chaos to mix with your order. Together, we created something neither species could have achieved separately. Through the quantum network, she could feel the thoughts and emotions of millions of beings across the galaxy. Former enemies discovering common ground, isolated worlds reaching out to make contact, scientists and artists and philosophers sharing ideas across species boundaries for the first time in centuries. The hegemony is right about one thing, Maya admitted. This is going to cause massive changes. Not all of them will be easy. Lyrian's three eyes reflected the starlight streaming through the viewports. Change never is. But for the first time in my life, I am not afraid of the future. The quantum network ensures that no species will face the darkness alone. Maya smiled, watching as the human fleet prepared to escort the freed captives to their home worlds, while hegemony ships moved to join their mission against the remaining syndicates. Then I guess we better make sure the future is worth all the trouble we're causing. 6 months after the Xerion incident, Maya stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the orbital facility that had become the physical center of the quantum communication network. What had begun as a desperate rescue mission had evolved into something unprecedented in galactic history, a truly cooperative interstellar community. The station itself was a marvel of hybrid engineering, combining human adaptability with veil-touched quantum resonance technology and innovations from 20 other species. Its organic curves housed quantum communication arrays, medical facilities, research laboratories, and diplomatic chambers where former enemies now worked side by side. The latest reports from the syndicate hunting operations, Lyrian said, approaching with a data tablet that shifted between biomechanical display modes. 17 more facilities raided this week. The joint fleets are proving remarkably effective. Maya smiled as she reviewed the mission reports. Human creativity combined with hegemony discipline and Andromedan technology had created hunting groups that the remaining syndicates simply couldn't evade. Any signs of organized resistance? The syndicates are fragmenting. Without their centralized communication network, they cannot coordinate effectively. Lyrian's three eyes reflected satisfaction. Many are surrendering rather than face the joint fleets. The quantum trials have made it clear that their crimes will not be overlooked. The quantum trials had been another innovation born from the network, judicial proceedings that allowed victims from across the galaxy to provide testimony through quantum-linked communication. For the first time, syndicate leaders faced their victims directly, hearing the voices of beings they had reduced to commodities. Captain Morrison sends her regards. By the way, Maya added, checking her personal messages, the Iron Maiden is leading a relief convoy to the outer colonies. She says to tell you that your people's quantum navigation makes their mining operations 50% more efficient. Lyrian's expression shifted to what Maya had learned was their version of a grin. And our engineers say that human mining techniques have revolutionized asteroid processing in the core worlds. It seems cooperation benefits everyone. Maya walked to the central observation port, where she could see the constant flow of traffic around Harmony Station. Merchant vessels carried goods and passengers between worlds that had barely acknowledged each other's existence 6 months ago. Research ships departed on joint scientific missions. Cultural exchange vessels transported artists, musicians, and philosophers eager to share their work across species boundaries. Sometimes I still can't believe it worked, she admitted. When we sent out that distress call from your damaged ship, I never imagined it would lead to this. You saw past the barriers that others accepted as permanent, Lyrian replied, joining her at the viewport. You proved that cooperation was possible by simply refusing to accept that it was impossible. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority transmission. Maya activated the communication console, and Admiral Keithvar's image appeared on the screen. The former hegemony officer now served as military coordinator for the joint syndicate hunting operations, and their expression carried news of significance. Maya, Lyrian, I have an update on Operation Cleansing Fire, the Admiral reported. We have located the primary syndicate, stronghold in the Magellanic Reach. Intelligence suggests it contains the syndicate leadership and potentially thousands of captives. Maya felt the familiar surge of determination that came with news of people in need. What's the tactical situation? Heavily defended and located in a nebula even more dangerous than Xerion. The radiation levels would be lethal to most species, and the gravitational anomalies make navigation extremely hazardous. Kethvar paused. We need volunteers for what will be the most dangerous mission of the campaign. Maya and Lyrian exchanged glances, understanding passing between them without words. How many ships do you need? Maya asked. The Joint Council has approved a fleet of 30 vessels, but we need crews willing to risk everything for people they may never meet. The Admiral's expression softened slightly. I understand if you prefer to coordinate from here. You have already done more than anyone could ask. Maya looked around Harmony Station, seeing the proof that cooperation between species wasn't just possible, but inevitable when people were allowed to communicate freely. Then she thought about the thousands of beings still trapped in syndicate facilities, waiting for someone to care enough to risk everything for their freedom. Admiral, start assembling the fleet, she said firmly. Count us in. The final mission against the syndicate stronghold brought together the largest cooperative fleet in galactic history. Human adaptability, veil-touched quantum mastery, hegemony discipline, Andromedan innovation, and contributions from dozens of other species created a force that represented the very best of what the galaxy could achieve when working together. As Maya stood on the bridge of their quantum-enhanced ship, now officially designated the Harmony's Edge, she felt the weight of all the lives depending on their success, but she also felt the strength that came from knowing they weren't facing the challenge alone. Quantum drive is synchronizing with the fleet, Lyrian reported from the pilot station. All ships report ready for final approach. Maya opened the fleet-wide communication channel, knowing that her words would be heard by beings from dozens of worlds united in common purpose. All vessels, this is Maya Chen. 6 months ago, we were strangers from different species who barely trusted each other. Today, we stand together as proof that the galaxy's greatest strength isn't our differences, but our willingness to overcome them. She paused, looking out at the swirling chaos of the Magellanic Reach, where their most dangerous challenge waited. There are people in that stronghold who have given up hope, who believe that nobody cares enough to risk everything for their freedom. Let's prove them wrong. The fleet moved forward as 130 ships carrying the hopes of 1 billion beings into the heart of darkness. Maya felt the quantum network humming around them, connecting every crew member in a web of shared purpose and determination. Whatever happens in there, Lyrian said quietly, you have already won the greater victory. The galaxy will never be the same. Maya smiled, watching the syndicate stronghold grow larger on their screens. Good. It was never supposed to stay the same forever. The battle for the Magellanic stronghold would become the stuff of legend, a perfect fusion of courage, technology, and cooperation that freed over 10,000 captives and destroyed the last major syndicate operation. But for Maya, the real victory had happened months earlier, when one human chose to help one injured alien simply because it was the right thing to do. In the years that followed, as the quantum communication network connected billions of beings across the galaxy, and cooperation replaced competition as the dominant force in interstellar relations, historians would debate the exact moment when everything changed. Some pointed to the Xerion rescue, others to the establishment of Harmony Station, still others to the final defeat of the syndicates. Maya knew better. The change had begun with a single act of kindness between strangers, proving that sometimes the most important revolutions start not with grand gestures or elaborate plans, but with one person deciding that another person's suffering matters more than their own safety. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humanity that day. Humans might be chaotic, unpredictable, and occasionally reckless, but when someone needed help, they showed up. And in a universe full of beings afraid to reach across the void between species, sometimes showing up was the most radical act of all.